government's green list of destinations has been confirmed. There are 12 places on there, including Portugal, Gibraltar and Australia. Let's talk to travel journalist Jill Starley-Grainger. Are you surprised by that green list?
Not really. We were never expecting this list to be very large at this stage. So many countries around the world are still struggling both with vaccination rates and with keeping the virus under control. So you can understand why the government is trying to limit it in the beginning. It's really important to note, though, that just because a country's on the green list, it doesn't mean you can go there. Some of those countries are not letting in visitors. So it's only if you actually have citizenship, for example, of one of those countries. So a lot of times this is more helpful for people who need to return home or visit friends and family in those countries rather than a holiday.
It's similar to last year, isn't it? Some major destinations, they haven't made it onto that green list that it was speculated that they would.
Yes, and they're going to review the list every 3 weeks. The reality is this list has come out now. The earliest you could feasibly travel is the 17th of May if it's for leisure purposes or to visit friends and family. So they're going to review the list every 3 weeks. So I would always be very careful about booking because there is nothing to say that what's happened last summer won't happen again. Although they say they're reviewing it every 3 weeks, the government has also made it clear that if something happens in between, they could still do what they did last year, which is say you have 24 or 48 hours to get home, or else you're going to have to quarantine. So if it goes onto the amber list, you'd have to quarantine at home. But if you get moved onto the red list, which of course Turkey just has, for example, Turkey's being moved onto the red list as well as the Maldives, which is quite disappointing for a lot of people. That means you have to quarantine in one of these very expensive government hotels.
Of course. Let us remind ourselves how this traffic light system works, though. So for green countries, passengers must take a pre-departure test as well as a PCR test on return to the UK, but won't need to self-isolate. Travellers to amber countries, which are yet to be confirmed, will need to take a pre-departure test, 2 PCR tests and self-isolate for 10 days on return. And those returning from red countries will need 3 tests and a 10-day stay in a quarantine hotel. What happens if you've already booked a holiday but you've found out today your destination isn't on a green list, perhaps?
Unfortunately, this is the risk. This is why I keep saying to please just wait and book closer to travel, because there is no refund in this situation. Now, certain holiday providers have been offering their own guarantees, and a lot of them have said they'll move it in certain situations. But in the vast majority of cases, it's just too bad. So either you decide to go ahead and go with all of the tests that are required, which can be quite expensive. The testing package for amberless countries, most people are finding cost between £300 and £500 because people are struggling to get these cheap tests that they keep claiming. So we were hoping that the government was going to do something to limit the cost of tests, but I haven't seen that yet. So yeah, very few insurance policies would cover this either.
Just lastly, I mean, lots of people have vouchers from last year that they need to spend, but the tests, as you say, the possible queues, people will be put off, won't they? Perhaps.
I think that's probably the intent in some ways, is to try to really limit travel right now. I'm hopeful that later in summer, as the situation clears up, as more countries are vaccinated, that there will be more destinations added and it'll be a little bit easier. But I do still think this summer is going to be very much touch and go. So I would proceed with caution because there is no guarantee and very few insurance policies would cover anything moving from green to amber or amber to red. And the expense of that could be a great expense, really more than the cost of your holiday.
We will see. Jill, thank you so much for that.